Social Justice Goblin! Ah! I don't know. So, you gotta understand, I'm an old school wrestling fan. When I say old school wrestling, I started watching wrestling in 1986. 87, actually. 87, when I moved to Holland and saw it for the first time in my life. And I fell in love with it instantly. I was sort of that. I can't. I just love this. This is so awesome. They're fighting and beating the tar out of each other. Yay! And I'm not getting my butt beaten. So, so, so it was what it was. And, you know, and after I discovered comic books, well, not discovered, I was already, but anyways, there's a complicated reason, but mostly it has to do with the fact that there was no more wrestling in Holland. Seriously, one day they just cut it off. I got a summer of it. It was the awesomest summer of wrestling. I saw it. Anyways, I'm digressing. I consume most of my wrestling information through print media. Kept you abreast of all the angles and had history in it. Had all this fun stuff. I mean, and there was a lot of stuff put into history. There was a lot of great history articles, and I learned a lot about professional wrestling. And every time I get into the in back in or cause then once I moved back to America, I started watching professional wrestling again because, well, I live in America now and I can see it whenever. So I started watching professional wrestling again. I kind of prefer WCW over WWF. I don't know. I mean, I liked the WWF. It was so cartoony, though. It was just like, it was the '90s in wrestling was a very strange era, and then there was the rise of ECW, and that really just the game changed. ECW. Anyways, I'm digressing and talking history that I remember. I remember though when ECW hit the scene, it was like people were just writing down the matches, and they were just incredible. Just reading them was incredible. There were classics all over the place, involving Eddie Guerrero, Super 8. Oh my god, Super 8 was so good. All right. So, but then when I came back in, it seemed like a lot of the history wasn't there. You could find some books, which I did and read them. Dynamite Kid book, which I read, which the guys at the school that I was going to, because that's the thing you don't know. I went to wrestling school back in 2000. So, 2000, 2001. And all I did was ring crew. I could not bump, and I was just like, I'm good. Every time I say I'm good in my current wrestling school, we do not give up on you. Which basically says you can't quit. We're not going to elect you because we have that much faith in you. And they work me hard. They are tough on me. But they're tough on everyone. Anyways, they're good instructors. I mean, AAPW, the instructors really are good. They know they're incredible talent. They're all very talented performers. And they communicate well. And They know, and they can spot things that you wouldn't believe. They have an incredible eye for wrestling. So why would I not brag about my instructors? And my instructors are basically staying on top of me. And yeah, I can't quit. They're not going to let me. I don't know where this is going, but I now am trapped in this for another until the end of the year. And you know what? Maybe I do have some talent. You know, because they don't invest that much unless they think there's something special about you. But man, I might get the ref. So, anyways, but there wasn't like this big preservation of history. Well, flash forward to today. We have access to an incredible library of wrestling. We have more wrestling content than a human being can consume in a lifetime. There are so much buried in the WWE archives. Matches like, did you know that there was a Randy Savage and Ricky Dragon Steamboat? Two more? And the thing is there's a sense of history. We never taught history in my first school. It was like, you know, they read PWI, they read Pro Wrestling Illustrated because they wanted to see their names in the 500. But we didn't talk history. That was just not something that was talked about. But now history is everywhere, and it brings me pride because I know my wrestling history. Sort of, kind of. The problem is, like, you go up against someone like Jim Cornette, you're just dead. Or you go up against anyone that knows wrestling history, you're dead. I mean, you know, I've learned so much history just in starting to research my history again. You know, there's a lot of history in wrestling, and I know a sliver of it, but I know more than the average person because I have good memory for these things, and I lived through a lot of it. I mean, I've seen the Macho Man perform. I've seen Hogan live. Magnificent at running the crowd. I've seen it all. I mean, but I love that we have a sense of history in this modern era. Everybody, there's a lot of respect paid to the old ways, and people really, really show a lot of reverence to wrestling history. And that's the big difference I'm seeing in my school. History is important. They learn their history. You know, it's important. Pops wants you to know your history, and you know, you're learning everything about the business. All right, and there's mistakes that were made in the past that you could learn from, and so history.